Hello and welcome to the first RP3 eRace. We have both athletes at attention and they're off. Here we go, first RP3 eRace. You see Ollie Zeidler on the left side of your screen there, his dominating figure there on the RP3 rowing machine. He's getting off to a great start. We've got a bit of a delay on Sverri's side here, but we're hoping to catch back up with him. We see Ollie hesitate here as he's looking to see if Sverri comes into this race. But as we get going here, Ollie Zeidler just getting off to a start, passing the 150-meter mark. He stops here looking to see if Sverri's in this race, and there we go. We've got Sverri's boat back on the screen. We've got both of them going stroke for stroke, looking around, trying to see if the other one, what their strategy is. We've got both athletes really coming into this race saying they don't know what to expect. This is their first eRace. They're on the RP3 rowing machine. They're looking at on-water speed times, so they're really not sure what their strategy is. And both of them were saying early in an interview before this race that they're going to look to see what the other one does in the first 1,000 meters and then make their move. So right now they're crossing that 300-meter mark. Both of them looking strong. You can see their nice, relaxed faces here. Ollie Zeidler just pushing away. And then we get Sverri Nielsen coming back into the picture here. They're really going stroke for stroke here as we come into the first 500-meter mark. We're going to be looking at those split times, trying to understand how this actually compares to on-water racing. So in an on-water race, we'd expect them to go across in about 1:37. So they're going just a bit slower than that. Now we're seeing they're coming across the 500-meter mark here, going at about a 1:45 through that first 500-meter mark. So that's relatively slow in a men's single, but I think both of these athletes are really looking to see what the other one's going to do here and then decide what move to make. So, you know, just to give a bit of a background on these two athletes, Ollie Zeidler, current world champion in the men's single sculls, just a dominating force really coming up. He's very young, 23 years of age. He weighed in this morning at 103 kilos. So just a massive, massive force in the sport of rowing. And on the right side of your screen, Sverri Nielsen, silver medalist from the World Rowing Championship. So we've got the top two athletes coming out of 2019 here, going head to head in this eRace. And we can see them as they're coming through. They're coming into that 1,000-meter mark, going across 750 right now. And we just see Ollie with just a little bit of a lead over Sverri Nielsen. They're just kind of looking, seeing what the other one's going to do, but both of them remaining pretty calm through the second 500 meters. They're just trying to find that rate. If you compare it to their World Championship race of last year, this is kind of how they did it too. They were starting off strong, really fast out of the blocks, and then that second 500 meters was relatively slow for both of them, trying to come down, find that rhythm, find that rate. And as we're going to cross into that third 500 meters, that's when the pain really comes across the faces of these two athletes. That's when it's going to start to hurt. So now we're going into that second half of this race. We're going to look at the time here. A bit slow. They're coming across that 1,000-meter mark at 3:26. So in a men's single, that's a relatively slow race, but let's see if they start to pick it up as they come through that third 500. They see where the other one's at. Sverri Nielsen needing to make a bit of a move here if he wants to get back on Ollie Zeidler. Ollie saying in his interview yesterday that he was going to try and really pull out all the stops in that second 1,000 meters. So let's see. Yeah, we can just see him starting to raise his rate here. He's starting to breathe a little harder. It's really interesting to see that stroke of Ollie Zeidler a little bit shorter through the front end. He stays quite upright with his body. He's got 2 meters to play with, so he's got quite a bit of length to play with. He doesn't have to extend quite as much as Sverri Nielsen does. But we see through that third 500 meters, Ollie Zeidler really pulling out the stops. Sverri Nielsen taking it up here, trying to get back on him, and we're just having a little bit of a breakup in the video from Sverri Nielsen, so it's hard to tell if he's really staying with Ollie, but right now I have him just about 30 meters behind Ollie Zeidler in this third 500 meters. These two incredible athletes, both young, both coming up into the field in the last couple of years. Ollie Zeidler really only starting international rowing in 2018, coming from a swimming background. And Sverri Nielsen has been on the rowing scene since 2012, but he's really started to come into his own in the last year. So it's really amazing to see these two. Their Olympic season postponed for another year. This is their one race of the season at the moment, and they're absolutely going for it. They're going to come into the last 500 meters here. We see Ollie Zeidler just with about a 15-meter lead ahead of Sverri Nielsen, and the question is going to be, just like at the World Championships, who has the power coming in to these last 500 meters? And we can absolutely see they're starting to pull out the stops. I love it. Their faces stay calm. They're really picking up the rate here. You see Ollie Zeidler with that nice short stroke, just driving through the legs there, and then Sverri Nielsen with a bit of a longer stroke, pushing through his back here. We're going to come into the last 350 meters, and you can really see Ollie is going for it. He wants to win this race, but Sverri is not letting him get away. So we're going to see who has that sprint into the final part of this race, looking at a totally normal on-water boat speed time. Different for these two. It's the first time they've ever done this on an indoor rowing machine, and we've got Ollie Zeidler with about 25-meter advantage ahead of Sverri Nielsen coming into the final sprint. Yes, and now we see the pain on their face. You can see Ollie Zeidler just starting to grunt here. We see Sverri Nielsen trying to make his comeback. As we're coming into the final meters, we see Ollie Zeidler really taking advantage of his length here, really taking advantage of that big body, and he's pushing through into the last 150 meters. We've got him just 60 meters up on Sverri Nielsen. Can he come back in these final strokes? It's down to the wire here. Last 100 meters for Ollie Zeidler, pushing it out, coming to the finish line, and I think this one's going to go the way of the German today. Into the final 50 meters, last few strokes for Ollie Zeidler, and we see that finish line in sight. He sees that finish line in sight, and he's pushing through it. Last two strokes, and I'm going to call it for Ollie Zeidler, just ahead of Sverri Nielsen. What a race for these two. We see them both coming over, hanging on top of their ergs. We've got Sverri Nielsen just 6 seconds behind Ollie Zeidler. Ollie Zeidler coming in at a 6:43.7, so that's a very quick 2K time, on water 2K time. In fact, that's just slightly slower than his fastest time ever on the water. So we're really looking at that to compare. What a race between Ollie Zeidler. We see him just climbing off the erg there, and we see Sverri Nielsen also finding his spot on the floor. We're going to catch up with